My great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Jim Silkenat, the President-elect of the American Bar Association. Jim is a partner in the New York office of the national law firm of Sullivan & Worcester. As detailed in his bio, which you have in your packet, he has a long and distinguished record of service at the American Bar Association. He's also a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and the American Law Institute. But it's a particular pleasure for us to have Jim here with us today because the most important part of his bio is that 35 years ago he was the founding co-chair of Human Rights First, which was then called the Lawyers Committee for International Human Rights. So we're particularly pleased to have Jim here. His commitment to human rights and the rule of law is a long one and very deep. Jim will begin his term as president of the ABA in August, but he has already been working with the ABA's Commission on Immigration to call attention to the need for reforms in the immigration system. The ABA and its Commission on Immigration have played a pivotal role in advancing due process, human rights, and access to counsel for immigrants all across this country. ABA leaders met years ago with the Attorney General and secured a commitment to develop the first set of standards for immigration detention. The ABA really was the driving force behind the standard-setting exercise for detention standards. And in 2010, their report called Reforming the Immigration System sparked increased attention to the need to address flaws in the immigration adjudication system. And as I'm sure you'll hear from Jim, and this afternoon during our panel on detention conditions, the ABA's proposed civil immigration detention standards, which was adopted by the ABA at its last meeting, provide guidance, important guidance for transforming the immigration detention system away from its reliance on jails and jail-like facilities to facilities that are more appropriate for civil immigration detainees. So we're very, very pleased to have the American Bar Association represented in today's dialogue. They've been such a leader on this issue for many years, and we're particularly honored to have Jim here today to talk about the challenges that go to the heart of our country's ideals, its commitment to due process and to human rights. Thank you so much, Jim, for your leadership and for joining us here today.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I thought the discussion this morning was a particularly powerful one. It was incisive and thoughtful. I don't recall agreeing with Grover Norquist much before this morning, but it was wonderful to see, interesting to see, the number of nodding heads in agreement around the room during his comments. I think we focused on a possible solution to some very difficult issues that are facing us. As we have learned today, there are now two distinct sets of issues in dealing with immigration matters in the United States. First, what should our policy be on admitting immigrants and possibly considering them for citizenship? And second, how should we treat those foreign nationals who are already in this country and are being held in custody while their immigration status is being resolved? The first of these issues may now finally be the subject of constructive legislation here in Washington by Congress. The process is not complete, but there is some reason for hope. I was about to say it's about time, but that's not right. It's way past time for that to happen. The second issue of how we deal with foreign nationals under detention by immigration officials, however, is perhaps even more troubling in light of rule of law norms that the U.S. should be following. Human Rights First has always been a leader in promoting reforms on this topic. That was true from its earliest days, going all the way back to Arthur Helton. The American Bar Association has also made it a priority to advocate for fair treatment and full due process rights for immigrants and asylum seekers. We have worked for many years to improve access to counsel and legal information for the men and women in immigration detention and to push for treating them with dignity and respect. The ABA opposes immigration detention except in extraordinary circumstances. And these circumstances may include when there has been a specific determination that an individual poses a threat to national security or public safety or presents a real and substantial flight risk. The ABA supports using humane alternatives to detention for those who would otherwise be held in detention facilities. You heard this morning from a panel, including the ABA Commission on Immigration Advisory Committee member Julie Myers-Wood, who headed the Department of Homeland Security, Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office under President Bush, that there are very effective alternatives to immigration detention already available for a cost that is significantly less than that of jails and other secure facilities. Let's not lose sight of the fact that immigration detainees are held under the government's civil authority, not for violations of criminal law. The ABA is concerned with conditions of immigration detention all across the country. The New York Times recently reported that on any given day, in the largest 50 immigration facilities, the U.S. holds 300 immigration detainees in solitary confinement, many for 23 hours a day. In more than half of these cases, detainees were isolated for 15 days or more, the point at which psychiatric experts say they are at risk of severe mental harm. More than 10% in solitary confinement were held there for more than 75 days. As was indicated, the ABA has played a role in developing the original immigration standards, detention standards, really more than 20 years ago, when the ABA requested that the Department of Justice create detention standards to address pervasive problems with legal counsel at detention facilities around the country. The U.S. annually holds over 400,000 foreign nationals in facilities throughout the U.S., and as we've heard here, that's 33 or 34,000 on any given day at a cost of $2 billion. As indicated also before, the ABA Commission on Immigration recently developed ABA civil immigration detention standards to provide access to justice as well as basic dignity to the men and women who are ineligible for release from immigration detention. The standards were developed under the guidance of really an expert advisory group, and I hope that you will take advantage of grabbing a copy here after this program. These are difficult issues. We're all involved in them in one way or another, as citizens, as lawyers, as members of the public. So how do we move forward? We can work to ensure that detention is only used as a last resort and take advantage of alternatives to detention when appropriate. To ensure that newcomers have access to justice in our great country, we must work to ensure that they have access to counsel at government expense when necessary and appropriate. In 2010, the ABA's Commission on Immigration issued a groundbreaking report that identified and analyzed problems with the immigration adjudication system. The report reviewed the serious problems faced by immigrants who must navigate the court system without counsel and highlighted the tremendous need for representation in order to achieve just outcomes. There are a whole range of issues that I wanted to talk with you about today. Many of them have already been covered, so I want to close now with just a couple of quick comments. One of the topics that was mentioned in the prior program was the need for a legal access Job Corps. That's going to be a priority for my term as ABA president, something we've been working on for almost a year now. There is real hope for effective action here while addressing the unemployed, underemployed young lawyers. There is a much bigger opportunity here to provide access to justice for those who now don't have it. In closing, it's particularly important to remember that we must ensure that this country remains one where newcomers are treated with respect and humanity, where they're able to have a fair day in court, and where they continue to feel welcome to contribute to their communities and our nation. That is what will make us a stronger country. Thank you very much.